Sometimes the people you underestimate know more about you than you could ever imagine. In an exclusive Manhattan restaurant where power brokers seal billion-dollar deals, tech billionaire Marcus Keller thought he could mock his waitress in German, assuming she wouldn't understand. But when 28-year-old Amara Okonkwo responded fluently, exposing his darkest secrets to the entire room, his empire began to crumble. This is the story of one woman's courage and one man's downfall. Amara Okonkwo adjusted her black apron as she entered the private dining room of Le Ciel Bleu, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant. The room glittered with crystal chandeliers and the quiet murmur of wealth. At the center table sat Marcus Keller, the 52-year-old tech billionaire whose company, Keller Innovations, had just been valued at $8 billion. Amara had been working at Le Ciel Bleu for 6 months, putting herself through her final semester of an MBA program. What none of her colleagues knew was that she held a master's degree in international business from Frankfurt University. She'd spent 5 years in Germany, becoming fluent in the language while working for a major consulting firm. She'd returned to New York to care for her ailing mother, taking the waitressing job for its flexible hours. As she approached the table, she heard Keller speaking rapid German to his 3 business associates. She recognized them from the business news board members from a rival tech company. This wasn't just dinner. This was a meeting. "Good evening, gentlemen," Amara said with a professional smile. "May I start you with drinks?" Keller barely glanced at her Scotch neat. "The Macallan 25. As she noted the order, Keller leaned toward his associates and switched to German, his voice dripping with condescension. "Siehst du, in Amerika bieten an solche sie hat wahrscheinlich nicht mal die High School abgeschlossen sie. In America, such people serve us. She probably didn't even finish high school." The men chuckled uncomfortably. One tried to change the subject, but Keller continued, emboldened by their presence. "Dies Menschen verstehen nicht, das Senior Decoration sind. Nützlich, aber austauschbar. These people don't understand they're just decoration. Useful, but replaceable." Amara's hand tightened on her notepad, but her face remained serene. She'd faced prejudice before, but something about Keller's casual cruelty ignited a fire in her chest. She finished taking their orders and walked away, her mind racing. As she prepared their drinks at the bar, she overheard Keller's conversation continue. He was discussing something called Project Nightfall, a plan to manipulate stock prices through fake news campaigns and insider trading. The details were shocking: bribing journalists, creating shell companies, destroying competitors through manufactured scandals. "Die Sek word, nie herausfinden," Keller laughed. "The Sek will never find out under selbst wenn ich habe genug Anwälte Jeden Richter zu kaufen. And even if they do, I have enough lawyers to buy any judge." Amara's heart pounded. She'd studied corporate law. What she was hearing wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. Securities fraud, market manipulation, conspiracy. When Amara returned with their drinks, Keller was showing his associates documents on his tablet. He didn't bother to hide them, assuming that decoration couldn't possibly understand or care about complex business dealings. As she set down the glasses, Keller made another comment in German. "Pass auf den Finger auf lieb. Ich mixt nix das du meinen $1,000 Scotch eatest, das were wahrscheinlich mehr, als du in einem Monat verdienst. Watch your fingers, sweetheart. I wouldn't want you to spill my $1,000 Scotch. That's probably more than you make in a month." His associates laughed nervously. One whispered, "Marcus Violect Saltist, double quotes Marcus. Maybe you should closing parenthesis." But Keller waved him off. "Sie versteht kein Wort, vertrau mir, she doesn't understand a word." "Trust me." Amara set down the last glass and straightened up. Her heart was racing, but her voice was steady and clear as she spoke in flawless, unaccented German. "Eigentlich Herr Keller verstehe ich jedes Einzelwort under nicht nur das ich verstehe die Details ihres Project Nightfall, ihr Plans or mark manipulation, und ihr Absicht, die Aktien von Techvision, durch Gefälschte Nachrichten zus ihr Stren, als Gemmend, mit einem Masterabschluss in International Business von der Frankfurt Universität under Frank, Jahren Erfahrung bei Schmidt and Partners. Kann ich in Inversikon, was Sie Gerard beschrieben haben, ist nicht nur unethisches ist Betrug in großen Stil. Actually, Mr. Keller, I understand every single word. And not only that, I also understand the details of your Project Nightfall, your plans for market manipulation, and your intention to destroy Techvision's stock through fake news. As someone with a master's degree in international business from Frankfurt University and 5 years of experience at Schmidt and Partners, I can assure you, what you just described isn't just unethical, it's fraud on a massive scale. The color drained from Keller's face, his mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The 3 associates froze, their eyes wide with horror. Double quotes, Keller stammered. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Amara continued, her voice gaining strength. Under dar wir uns Privaten Rom mit Aufnahmegraten befinden ja Le Ciel Bleu, Signet alle Privaten aus Sicherheitsgrund, aufwärts ich vermit, das ihr Unterhaltung bereits dokumentiert. And since we're in a private room with recording devices, yes, Lucille, Blue records all private rooms for security reasons. I would assume your conversation has already been documented. This was a calculated bluff. Amara didn't know for certain if the room was recorded, but she'd seen cameras in the corners. The panic in Keller's eyes told her the bluff had worked. You can't. You have no right. Keller sputtered, switching to English, his voice rising. I have every right, Amara replied calmly, also switching to English. As a citizen who's just overheard the planning of federal crimes, as a woman you assumed was too ignorant to matter, and as someone who's tired of people like you thinking you're above the law. One of the associates stood abruptly. Marcus, we need to leave now. But it was too late. Amara's manager Pierre had entered the room, drawn by the raised voices. Behind him stood two other servers who'd heard the commotion. Is there a problem here? Pierre asked, his eyes moving between Amara and the pale billionaire. Mr. Keller was just leaving, Amara said quietly. She turned to Pierre. But first, I need to speak with you in restaurant security about a conversation I overheard regarding illegal securities fraud and market manipulation. Keller jumped to his feet, knocking over his untouched scotch. You're insane. Do you know who I am? I'll destroy you. I'll sue this restaurant into the ground. You're finished. You'll never work anywhere again. Actually, Amara said, pulling out her phone, I've been recording our conversation since you started threatening me. That's legal in New York, by the way, one-party consent. So now I have your admission that you've been discussing Project Nightfall and your acknowledgement that your plans constitute fraud. This was another bluff she hadn't been recording, but Keller didn't know that. His face turned from white to crimson. You trapped me, he breathed. No, sir, Amara replied. You trapped yourself. You assumed that because I'm a black woman serving drinks, I couldn't possibly be intelligent, educated, or fluent in German. You assumed you were safe to discuss criminal conspiracies because people like me don't matter. That was your mistake, not mine. Pierre stepped forward, his expression serious. Mr. Keller, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Amara, please come with me. We need to contact our legal department immediately. What happened next moved quickly. Lucille Blue's security footage did indeed capture audio from the private dining room, a fact confirmed when their legal team was contacted. The restaurant, not wanting to be implicated in any way, immediately turned over the footage to their attorneys who contacted the Amara gave a detailed statement to federal investigators. Her fluency in German, her business background, and her credible testimony provided the foundation for a major investigation. The SEC had been monitoring Keller for months but lacked concrete evidence. Amara's testimony and the restaurant's recording gave them everything they needed. Within 2 weeks, Keller was arrested on charges of securities fraud, market manipulation, and conspiracy. The investigation uncovered a web of corruption spanning 5 years and involving dozens of companies. TechVision, the company Keller had planned to destroy, saw its stock price surge when the plot was revealed. Several of Keller's associates turned state's evidence, leading to more arrests. The story exploded across national media. Waitress, who spoke up, became a symbol of everyday heroism. But for Amara, the attention was overwhelming. She'd only done what she thought was right. 3 months later, as Amara sat in a courtroom watching Keller's sentencing hearing, she thought about that night. The prosecutor had called her the government's star witness. The judge had commended her courage. Keller received 12 years in federal prison. His company, once valued at $8 billion, filed for bankruptcy. Dozens of investors who'd lost money in his schemes filed civil suits. But the story doesn't end there. TechVision's CEO, a woman named Jennifer Reese, had followed the case closely. A week after the sentencing, Amara received a phone call. Miss Okonkwo, I know you're finishing your MBA, Reese said. I also know you turned down interview offers from major firms because you wanted to focus on ethics and corporate responsibility. I'd like to offer you a position as our Director of Corporate Compliance. You've proven you have the intelligence, courage, and integrity we need. And frankly, after what Keller tried to do to us, we want someone who can spot trouble and isn't afraid to speak up. Amara accepted today. She leads a team of 25 compliance officers, ensuring that companies operate ethically and legally. She's become a sought-after speaker on corporate ethics, unconscious bias, and the importance of diverse perspectives in business. As for Lucille Blue, they promoted Amara's story with her permission as an example of the quality of their staff. Pierre himself wrote her a glowing recommendation letter. But perhaps the most meaningful outcome came from an unexpected source. Amara received hundreds of letters from people, especially young women of color, who told her that her story had inspired them to speak up in their own situations, to pursue their education despite obstacles, and to never let anyone make them feel invisible. One letter came from a 15-year-old girl in Atlanta. My teacher said people like us should be grateful for whatever jobs we can get. I showed her your story. Now I'm applying to college. Thank you for showing me that our voices matter. Amara keeps that letter framed in her office, next to her Frankfurt University diploma and her Columbia MBA. On difficult days, when corporate politics wear her down or when she faces resistance to her compliance initiatives, she reads it again. The Marcus Kellers of the world still exist. There are still people who judge others by appearance, who assume intelligence correlates with privilege, who believe they're above the rules that govern everyone else. But there are also Amara's people who refuse to be invisible, who carry their education, their dignity, and their courage with them wherever they go, who understand that real power doesn't come from wealth or status, but from integrity and the willingness to stand up for what's right. That night in LA Seal Blue, Marcus Keller learned an expensive lesson. Never underestimate the person serving you, because you never know who they really are, what they know or what they're capable of. And sometimes, the people you dismiss as decoration are the very ones who will hold you accountable for your actions. The end of this story is a work of fiction created to illustrate themes of dignity, courage, and justice. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and share. And remember, everyone you meet deserves respect regardless of their position or appearance. You never know their story, their struggles, or their strength.